everyone. Thanks for attending today's live hangout session put on by the University Finance Lab. Today the topic is simulation tools for trading labs. My name's Ryan Cahoy. I'm with a couple of companies, Rise Vision and Rise Display. We do digital signage from the Rise Vision side of things, so the big video walls and LCD screens you see in all these trading rooms, as well as the LED stock tickers through our Rise Display side. And I'll be moderating today's panel. We want to keep it a lively, interactive conversation. So as we get going here, if anyone has any questions, please throw those questions in. What you'll see, excuse me, at the bottom of the video window, lower right-hand corner is a green Ask a New Question. Feel free to put those in there. They'll pop up on our screen. We'll definitely include those as we get going through here. And don't be shy if you want to vote things up or take conversations in different directions. We definitely want to make sure we're answering the questions that you're here to learn about. Everything that we do is posted out on the University Finance Lab website. It's just universityfinancelab.com. We've tried to build it up as a resource for universities that are looking to build trading rooms. So as you're looking for a directory of maybe where some of the labs in your area are, you can go out and check out the directory. If you're looking for some different products or different partners that contribute things to trading rooms, there's a whole gallery of install photos if you're just looking for ideas. We've tried to amass a number of research papers as well for those of you that are out looking for white papers and case studies and different articles about how these trading rooms are being used, as well as the hangouts. So we're trying to hold hangouts such as this, roundtable conversations with experts in the industry every month. So you can see not only the recorded versions of previous hangouts, but our schedule for upcoming hangouts in the hangouts section. So at the conclusion of this, again, a recorded version will be posted out there. But as you get looking around, check out the website, and if there's anything you see missing, if your school has a lab or we don't have the right information, if you have a photo you'd like to contribute, or you know of any research papers we're missing, let us know. We definitely want to get as much information as we can out there to make it an effective resource for people that are learning about finance labs. And along those lines, we've put together a LinkedIn community. It's just called University Finance Lab. I haven't checked for a while, but I believe we've got just over 600 participants in the forum. And there's some really good conversations that happen out there. So if you've got any questions about labs, could it be anything from hardware to design to simulation programs, you name it. There's a great mixture of students, of faculty, of lab managers, of different vendors, different software and analytics providers, all participants in this community. So throw your questions up there. Don't be shy. It's another great place to share your ideas and get feedback from others. And that's also where we're getting a lot of the inspiration for these hangouts. We're trying to see what topics are interesting out there so we can take those topics and formulate, grab experts and put conversations like this together. Upcoming hangouts, in March we're going to talk about the design aspects of a lab. In April we're going to talk a little bit more on the analytics side in terms of real-time data, things like Morningstar. In May we're going to talk about kind of that bridge between real world and classroom and how you can bridge that gap. And then in June we'll talk a little bit about the technology, tickers, video walls, how to create that look, feel, that Wall Street atmosphere in the labs themselves. For anybody that is attending AACSB, we will have a 20 by 20 booth set up right in the center of the hall, building a mock trading room. So there'll be the display technology, there's going to be a new trading desk design that's there, simulation programs from companies such as Rotman and Trak will be there. So stop in, get demos, interact with other people. There's a schedule that's posted on our website that's got some speaking schedules, as we'll have different presenters in there for 10-15 minutes at various points just to talk about different pieces pertinent to finance labs. So with that, I think I've covered a lot of the general housekeeping things. I want to kind of start to get into the panel discussion. So to quickly introduce the group that we've assembled for today's conversation about trading applications and simulation programs. First off, we have Marco Salerno. He's the manager of the Financial Research and Trading Lab at Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto. Marco's been at it for a couple of years, and he's got a great perspective just because he's bridging both gaps here. He's familiar with the development and the tool itself in the Rotman Interactive Trader, but he also spends all of his time in the lab dealing with students, dealing with classes, so he's got that perspective as well. And joining him is Tom McCurdy, who's the founder and director of the Financial Research and Trading Lab at Rotman. So great perspective that Tom brings for us is he's been there since the very beginning. He's one of the pioneers in the industry that's helped put rooms like this together, as well as creating some of the tools that help make these labs effective. So he brings that perspective to our panel. Also joining us is Clayton Varjassy, the trading room software specialist at University of Lethbridge. Lethbridge's room has been in for 4 or 5 years. I'll let him correct me on that in a moment here, but you know, they've evolved and built, you know, one of the really nice programs in Canada, and Clayton's going to share with us how they're using the tools and the student perspective and just how their program's evolved over the last few years. And then last but not least, we have Tom Reti, who's the Global Business Development for Trak. And I'm sure Trak doesn't need much introduction, as you know, everybody's seen them at conferences and heard of them. They've got a great platform that's been around for a number of years that's used by lots of schools to create a virtual stock exchange. So creating those competitions, playing against the live markets with fictitious portfolios. So we'll get Tom's perspective on how those simulation programs are used out there. Again, just a quick reminder, a lot of great resources out at the universityfinancelab.com website, and this session is recorded. So if by chance you have to leave early, you miss part of the conversation, or we do such a fantastic job that you want to share it with any of your colleagues, you know, come back by the end of the day in the Hangout section. A recorded version will be there, and you can share it with anyone. And again, I want to encourage everyone to ask questions. We'd like to have a lively and interactive conversation. We've got a few things that we'll start the flow with, but at any time, you know, as questions are coming in, we'll navigate this conversation to whatever you guys feel is pertinent and of interest to you. So with that, let me just pop back in here. I'm going to start, and I'll let Clayton, I'll let you start off here. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us about your lab, how you're primarily using simulation tools, and just give us a little bit of background on you and Lethbridge.
Yeah, so my name's Clayton. My official title, I don't even know it off by hand, but it's the trading room software specialist here at the University of Lethbridge. I actually graduated from the university here, from our finance program, just under 2 years ago, and there was a point where there was a gap. There wasn't a manager because the old manager was on mat leave, someone was filling in, and the guy that was filling in got his dream job somewhere else. So they asked a few students to step in and run the RIT simulations for them, and I was one of those students, so I stepped in and I helped with that, and then I kind of just progressed from there and continued on. Our trading room, we have 48 stations in our trading room, the 30-foot LED ticker, the two 6-panel rise displays, all the shebang, and we have a spillover space of four stations. What's unique about our lab, though, is just the way that the actual software is delivered. So we don't actually have full computers in our lab. We run everything off of thin clients, and then we deliver everything through a Citrix virtual environment. So basically, the most unique thing that comes out of that is we give students the ability to access our software from home if they want to practice things, like some of the RIT trading simulations, things like that. They don't have to come to campus if they don't want to. For the classes, primarily we use the trading simulation softwares in our finance courses, and we use a number of different softwares to cover the different kind of needs that we have for our finance courses, but we have used them for economic courses, some accounting. We use RIT as well to kind of help promote the room. What we do there is we modified actually some of the simulations that they have stock, and we modified them in a way that simplified them enough that we could teach the case and run it for prizes to high school students or industry, anyone coming in that's interested in the room, and just run it real quick for some like hand puppet prizes that we have, and we can teach that and run it in about an hour. So it's kind of primarily how we use the room. Everyone goes through our trading room through one of our core courses, which is a supply chain management course. So we don't just limit our room to finance courses. It's opened up to other courses. So every single faculty management student that we have here at the university goes through the trading room. But yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for that information. I'll turn it to you, Tom, from Trak. If you want to give us a little bit of background on Trak and your simulation program and your expertise of where it fits into these finance labs.
Thanks, Ryan. Really enjoy the opportunity to be with you. Hope you're all seeing my screen. I guess most of you know us as appearing in leading textbooks. We're probably in about 30 textbooks right now as the leading teaching supplement. So if you're teaching investments, or you're in finance, or you're teaching accounting, odds are you'll find this in your textbook with a coupon. We've probably seen about 5 million students come through our programs. We operate in about 50 countries, and we've been around for 25 years. So really got a lot of depth and breadth in the university trading room, and in really any finance or investment class or accounting class. And one of the ways you can access Trak, and really what it is, it's a virtual trading platform that the professor manages and maintains. So it's like your Charles Schwab account or your E-Trade account. We focus on making it very, very simple and virtually having no learning curve associated with it. So the professor sets up all the trading parameters, and the students trade with the virtual portfolio. We've extended our market coverage this year. We've added we're up to 50 global exchanges, so just about anywhere where there's a predominant market, we're featuring that. One of the things that we also do is here's a recent install for us. So there's about 4 different ways you can use Trak, either on a per account basis, or how more and more business schools wanting to use it, they want us to brand the Trak platform. So this is something we've just delivered for Wichita State University. It's the Global Trading Center. So it's a project that we're very happy to be associated with. Here's something we did for Towson University. Again, it's the T. Rowe Price Finance Lab. Again, here's an ideal use of it, where they're using a lot of different tools in their lab, but they wanted to have their own branded trading platform. I'll just share one more with you. This is Bloomsburg University. Again, this is a situation where they wanted to have their own trading platform. So you can come and use Trak on a per account basis for the semester. You can access it for as cheap as $25, or if you decide, you can have a more updated version of our platform.
Great. Well, thanks, Tom. And I'll turn it over to you, Marco and Tom from Rotman, if you guys want to share a little bit about not only your lab, but what you're doing with Rotman Interactive Trader as well.
Okay, this is Tom. Thanks, Ryan. So as you mentioned, I do research on forecasting the dynamics of market or return distributions. I'm very interested in the risks that arise from changing shapes of those distributions. So I wanted to context to apply or to complement discussion cases, cases that take account of uncertainty about the future in very explicit ways. So this goes beyond trading. I think that most business decisions rely on good forecasts, or with some understanding of what we can and cannot predict and with what degree of confidence. So in our market simulator platform, we've developed learning by doing cases where we model explicitly the typical risks and uncertainties that are relevant for a particular security or a particular strategy. And so it's sort of like stochastic scenario analysis. It's a little bit different than what Tom just talked about in terms of tracking portfolios, in the sense that we can run multiple replications. And the role of the market in these situations is to aggregate everybody's decisions and provide immediate feedback. And so we want to run lots of simulations to derive strategies that are robust to the whole range of possible outcomes. And then they can then take that strategy and apply it on a platform, our other platform, the Rotman Portfolio Manager, where it's linked not to the simulated market, but it's linked to real-time quotes in the market. So our market simulators like a flight simulator, in the sense that we start simple cases where they master a particular skill by practicing it over and over again. When they've mastered that, we move to another slightly richer case where we've added in other opportunities or other risks. So eventually, through a sequence of cases, we get to a capstone case where all of those risks can interact. And that's analogous to when the pilot can finally take up the real airplane and deal with cascading risks. In this case, the student has finally thought about what strategies work in a down market or in a crash or a sideways market. They've derived a robust strategy in the simulation setting, Now they take it to market quotes and they put it into place and they track it over time and they learn all the institutional details, the contract sizes and where these securities are traded, etc. So those two are complements. And I'll let Marco talk a little bit about the lab.
Hello everyone, my name is Marco. I work in the Rotman School of Management as the Finance Lab Manager, and I work also with Tom on managing the Rotman Interactive Trader. It's the platform that Tom co-founded, and it's a market simulator, as he well explained. In our lab, we use our lab in many different ways. We have a lot of classes. We work with professors and students come to the lab to use real-time data to run simulations and to complete their assignments. But we also organize extracurricular activities. We run trading competitions with our students. We run portfolio management competitions with our students. So we try to get as many activities in the lab as possible. And we also partner with some corporations, and we organize edu social events for them. We run a simple simulation for them where they can, get some learning out of it, but also it's going to be a social event. And then, usually at the end, they organize a cocktail reception where they can network. That's more or less how we use the lab in our setting. As for the software Tom was mentioning, it's like a flight simulator. We have developed more than 35 cases for this market simulator. If some of you are familiar with the Harvard business cases, our cases are similar, but at the same time a bit different. There is, of course, some discussion around the case in terms of, the different topics that we present. But the nice feature of the software is that allows us to bring it to the next level, where the students actually have to apply the theory into a real-life scenario, and they have to come up with some decisions, and they have to implement new strategies to solve some of the challenges that we prepare for them.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that, Marco, which leads really nicely into kind of where I like to take things next, talking about how this impacts students. So I'll actually start with you, Tom and Marco, if you want to give us your perspective first in terms of, how do these simulation tools help the students in practicing these real-time decision making? Because obviously when they move into the real world, they need to be able to move quick and on their feet. How do these simulation programs prepare them for that?
Well, so that's a great question. When we started our lab, we thought of it as an information portal, but we very quickly wanted it to be a dynamic learning center so that they, as Marco said, they'd link what the discussion and the theory and the research they're talking about in the classroom to the types of questions that industry faces, but more importantly, with industry standard tools. So they're using industry standard tools in the lab, and they're trying to answer these questions. But we want to try to add value in the sense that we say they're paying a lot for their MBA degree. And so we want them not only to be able to arrive in the job place prepared, knowing how to use all the industry standard tools, knowing how to understand best practice in industry, but also learn how to learn on the job. And by that I mean they take what they've learned in the classroom, they've confronted it with the real-time resources, and they practiced making decisions, getting feedback, improving their understanding of what they learned in the classroom, and we're hoping then that adds value. They've learned how to learn, they've learned how to innovate, come up with new ideas, so they not only know best practice when they get to the job, but they've also practiced thinking about what they talked about in the classroom and whether that can help their employer do new things in different ways.
Let me just add something. With the Rotman Interactive Trader, the nice feature of this software is that you can run the same case over and over, and the variables will get randomized every time that you run a case. So students can experience within the same topic, within the same case, they can experience different draws from the distribution, and so they can learn how to react and how to develop different strategies depending on what is happening on the market in that particular time, at that particular moment.
Great, excellent. Well, I'll throw the same question at you, Tom, from StockTrak. I know your application's a little different in terms of managing real-time against the markets, but how do you see that impacting students' real-time decision making?
Thanks, Ryan. You know, just to add to what Marco and Tom were saying from Rodman, it really adds to the core competency of the student. So in those situations where you're teaching students how to excel in a banking career, whether they're going to be working in a finance environment or a banking career environment, you know, having been job ready, coming through the trading room is really a cornerstone of what the trading lab ought to do. But I think where StockTrak really sort of divests itself is that we're not really focused in on the case method, so to speak. The professors that use StockTrak, there's probably about 1,000 of them that come through. We probably see about 50,000 students come through a year. It's designed for the trading lab, but it also reacts and provides a lot of relevancy in and about recognizing that all students will have earning power over a lifetime. Not every student that's coming through the finance lab or is in the business program is going to be working on Wall Street. So at the end of the day, what's really important is that StockTrak really teaches students how to invest money, how to manage their portfolio, how to evaluate stocks alongside many of the industry leading tools. So we're seeing a much more broad use of StockTrak, and it's not it's a less intense way to be exposed to the financial markets. We really focus in on a very, very light experience. There's a lot of experiential tools built into the platform. There's it is research rich, and we have a lot of great widgets which show students how to maximize their VWAP and other features that are important in the banking and finance career. But we really lend utility to the trading room and allow students really the experience in how to manage money, Ryan. I think that's where StockTrak really excels.
So just kind of a follow-up question to that. I'm just curious, like in terms of the decision-making side, are you seeing a lot of schools with actual student-managed funds where they're managing real money, using your program in a lower-level class to weed out the people that are the people they want managing the real money?
Right. So we are seeing that. StockTrak's really broadly used in just about every business discipline, you know, inside the university. So you're seeing the Student Endowment Fund using it to answer your question specifically. You're seeing the Finance Society using it. You're seeing StockTrak being used in their adult education programs. You know, and they're also inviting local high schools to come into their trading labs. So they're using the platform by offering it to their local high schools as part of you know, their personal finance initiatives right now. So we're seeing a lot of adoption like that.
Great. Well, I'll throw the same question over at you, Clayton, if you want to kind of share your perspective of how you're using this and how you've seen it aid in the decision-making process for students. And, you know, firsthand, you know, you coming from a student into the position you're in, how did it benefit you?
Yeah, so we're primarily an undergraduate university here, especially the students that go through our finance program. So we look at it a lot as if it's kind of a stepping stone. So there's different tools, different simulation tools that serve different purposes. So we really like RIT as kind of that base tool that students can use to learn specific details. RIT is very focused, right? So an RIT case is going to have the learning objective, and it'll be very specific on what it's trying to teach you. And it's great, especially for our undergraduate students, that a lot of them haven't done anything yet, right? So if they're learning about limit orders, market liquidity, that kind of stuff, it's a great tool for that. And then we start stepping into other tools that get you closer and closer to a live account, to that real decision-making process. So we'll step into something like financial trading systems, FTS, and they'll have specific cases where they're limiting the number of stocks you can trade, what you can trade. But it'll be live data this time, real market data that they'll use. So we'll step into something like that, and then you step into something like stock. Do a demo account is what we found with a regular company, but they pull out a lot of the clutter. So it's like a focused demo account. It's not. I mean, we go into after StockTrak, so we use StockTrak, something like that, to get them comfortable with real market data across a number of different markets and not so focused like financial trading systems. And then we jump into something like an actual live demo platform like Think or Trade from PD, and it's just a stepping stone like that, because if you jumped into something like Think or Swim from the get-go, it's just overwhelming to students. They open it up and they're going to see all this data coming from everywhere, and it's built for people that have been in the industry for a while and really know what they're doing. So it's kind of, the way we use it is like a stepping stone process, and we build it up so that by the time the students are done, they're really comfortable and they can make those decisions in the real world in real time once they get their own accounts or into a position that allows them to do that.
Great. Well, one of the terms that I hear a lot thrown around at events and conferences is experiential learning. How do you guys see that being tying into simulation programs? Do you see the correlation there, and any specific examples where people are using this to really develop an experiential learning program? And I'll start with you, Marco and Tom from Rotman, if you want to share your thoughts on that.
Okay, I think that experiential learning is one of those things I use in my own writing, but I find that a lot of people have a different idea about what that means. And in the educational literature, I think it usually means having your students go and work, say, on the bench in the lab for Amgen. So they're actually going and working in industry for part of their time. And so I think that's a good idea what experiential learning is. You're learning to do what a company has to do from day to day. And so we try to replicate that in the lab with the addition that we're trying to, give them situations where they'll be very similar to what they do in industry. In fact, we have perhaps more resources, more data resources than the typical company would have, because we'll have several of the resources, because we want students to be exposed to all the different platforms, because they may get a job at the company that uses one or the other. But so we try to give them a situation where it's experiential, that they're solving problems similar to what they would do in industry, but we're trying to run lots of different replications in terms of giving them experience in an accelerated way, that they might work for quite a few years before they face a market crash, but in a simulated environment you can let them experience a market crash and then try to learn from that in terms of how they should respond. So I think we get more learning by doing and decision making under uncertainty in our case, but though that word experiential learning I think is still relevant, because it's linking the classroom to what industry or what they're going to experience on the job.
Okay. Marco, anything you have to add to that?
I think Tom did a perfect job.
Perfect. Okay, I'll kick it at you, Clayton. Any, I guess, you guys throw the term experiential learning around in your facility, and any correlations you see with simulation programs?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, something like Rotman Interactive Trader, it's nice because the cases are built very focused, so a professor can teach a specific concept, like say Black-Scholes model, pricing, something like that, and then we can go ahead and run a simulation for our student that just focuses on that specific piece. And then again, you get into the more robust tools with a full-fledged demo platform of something, and that that just allows students to go in and actually trade as if they're in the actual marketplace themselves. Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think it goes hand in hand, right? Simulation tools, experiential learning, it's all about doing, so they go together really well.
Great. And Tom from StockTrak, anything to add from your perspective on experiential learning and how that applies?
I think it's a term that I encounter just about every other day with talking to professors that are calling, inquiring about our product. I think it allows you to scuff your knee a little bit and get bruised in the marketplace without having any really risk exposure to it. So with all the tools that we've got in the trading lab right now, I think that whole process really allows you to be market ready when you're graduating. So anything that you're doing in the trading room that teaches all the scenarios that you might experience in the real world is something that we support entirely. And I think that's where StockTrak is really, really good. Much of what you're learning in class is really the language of math or the metrics of money. And managing money is really a difficult process. While more and more of the management of money is taken away from us in terms of, machine trading and trying to get yourself as close to the market as possible. Anything that you're learning inside the lab or anything that adds value to how you can manage money is what we're seeing as being a powerful indicator of what's actually happening in the marketplace. And I think that's where StockTrak is a really great advocate and a really great tool, both inside and outside the marketplace, because you walk away understanding how to manage your money far more effectively than if you didn't have that quote catchphrase experiential learning skill set inside the classroom. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't be market ready.
Okay. And I'll stick with you, Tom, to kind of start to shift gears and move to next question here is, where are these classes using these simulation tools? Is it just the finance programs that are using it, or what other classes are you seeing benefit from simulation tools?
Wow, Ryan, it's really entirely across the entire spectrum. We're seeing it being used in the adult education program. We're seeing these, well, specifically our platform is being used as early as the 4th grade in the United States, and getting used here as well in Canada. So we're seeing it being used in the accounting class, and there's a really interesting case history with Humber College, where at Humber College, and I work very closely with Professor Alfred Seaman there, and he specifically uses it in his accounting class. And I mean, there's other people that are using it there, but I was very curious, what are you trying to get across in an accounting setting? He says, well, Tom, everything about money is counting it. So we should begin by learning how to use accounting and putting the stock market together, because that really increases your accounting skills. So we're seeing a broad showcase of classes that are using it. So it's not just in your investments class or your portfolio management class or your derivatives class. We're seeing wide adoption of our product and of these kinds of products in general, or simulation learning type products, both inside and outside the classroom.
Great. I'll kick that same question to you, Tom and Marco. I know you guys have a lot of cases specific to finance, but are there any cases you've developed or any applications you've seen for the specific finance programs for the simulation tools?
That's a good question. So we use our cases in many different ways, and people with very different backgrounds. Following up on what Tom was saying, we use it for executive education. So we have professionals coming in our lab, and we've done different cases. Sometimes we even develop cases for them depending on their needs. We also use our cases for admissions. So we have people that are thinking about coming to our school, and usually we organize some events where we show them, okay, if you come study here in Rotman, this is what we're gonna do, or at least some of the classes are gonna be done by using simulation tools, and this is an example. And generally speaking, we use our cases in the Master of Mathematical Finance, Master of Financial Economics, in our MBA. We use it with our undergraduate students, first year, second year, third year, fourth year students. So really, we can use our cases, and we can tailor the case and present it in a way that is tailored on the needs of the students that we and the crowd of the people that we are talking to. So the use can be very wide and can go across a different variety of people. Do you want to add anything?
Yes, and one thing that Marco didn't mention was it has been used for research as well. So we have some research papers that have been published where they've used our platform for what we call experimental finance. So they collect data on how people respond, say with asymmetric information, how they can see the market aggregating information and their responses, etc. And one thing, Ryan, that I want to follow up on your good question to Tom about using a platform to choose students, say, to go on to manage real money. I saw it very innovative at our recent international competition. I was talking to a professor who told me about how he uses the cases to try to assess performance. So he keeps data on individual students in terms of how how they manage risk, how volatile their outcomes are, and how well they do on average over time. And then he takes that and sees how good a predictor it is for their performance in other situations where they're making decisions across uncertainty. In fact, he uses it to choose his team to come to our international competition. And he's worked out which cases are most useful in terms of predicting which students are going to do well across a whole range of decision-making situations. Because at our competition, we have decision-making across a lot of different situations. And so from that respect, I thought that was an interesting use of a simulation to not only to provide feedback to the students, but also to provide feedback to the professor in terms of what types of performance metrics are good predictors for their learning.
Yeah, that's a great example. That's interesting. I'll kick the same thing at you, Clayton. How are you guys using it at Lethbridge in your trading room? Are there any classes outside of finance that touch the simulation programs?
Yeah, for sure. We have everything from economics to accounting to finance that come through there, and we also bring in like introductory courses as well, just to get them kind of introduced to what's available and what they can use. A lot of times we won't use longer-term simulation tools for that. We'll use shorter-term things like RIT, where they can come in for a class. We can run a simulation start to end, teach them everything, and it's done and over with in that same class. And we actually do the same thing with high schools. So just in the general area here, we have a bunch of high schools, and we'll reach out to them, and for their I can't remember the name of their programs, but their career and life management programs, we'll bring them in, and we'll bring them in for a little class, and we'll teach them a bunch of things. And there's certain teachers that will actually give their students simulations throughout their course. Something like Trak, they'll use things like that. And then there's certain teachers that won't, and you can really see the difference between the students that are exposed to it early and the students that aren't when they come into our lab, and we have to teach them something. And even things like limit orders and market orders, if they already know things like that, they're just so much further ahead. So I think the key is to get it in young and get them started there.
Great. Well, I'll stay with you, Clayton, on a follow-up question. Like, since you started using simulation programs in the classes, any metrics or anything you've seen that's shown increased participation in class or increased attendance or increased enrollment? Like, anything you can tie back to the simulation program and the effectiveness of it?
I wouldn't say quantitatively, but you can just feel it in the classrooms, and just students, if all they're learning is theory, if that's all the teacher's going to do is just teach theory, there's going to be a big gap because they haven't been able to apply it to anything. And we've definitely had, like, there's different courses that won't use simulation tools, and you can even see with those courses, they'll learn the theory, but they won't really put two and two together as to how that theory actually applies in the real world. And that's where the simulation tools really come in and help bridge that gap. We don't have any quantitative numbers that we've accumulated with that, but qualitatively speaking, even when we're running RIT simulations for a class, just the energy in the class goes way up. When they're actually doing something, it brings a good energy to the class, and you can tell the students definitely really enjoy it. When we bring the high school tours in, they always have fun, and normally people think, finance isn't that boring, but normally it's not the most exciting thing in the world, right? But when we bring people in and we're running these things for them and they're actually doing something, they really get excited about it, and it just kind of reinforces that mentality as to why they actually wanted to get into finance in the first place. If all they're learning is theory, eventually they're going to kind of teeter out and how this isn't what I wanted, but when they actually get to use those tools, it really emphasizes that.
Great. Well, I'll throw the same question at you, Tom and Marco, and probably two parts to it. Number one, what's your experience at Rotman in terms of the simulation programs? Have they increased enrollment or use in the trading room? And then on the second part of that, you've got a lot of other schools that are using your tools. Have any of them shared any metrics or data with you of how it's helped improve their programs?
Thanks for the question, Ryan. That's a really good question. So I don't have any numbers, but I can tell you that our admission program is asking us to do more and more simulations with potential students. So I'm assuming that yes, it's a way for them to market our school better to potential students, to essentially show how innovative we are in terms of education. So I strongly think that a simulation can help the school, not only the finance lab. And when it comes to the finance lab, we have a few classes, and Tom has been running classes fully based on the finance lab and the simulation tools, and they are always full. So the only reason why we don't accept more students is because we don't have enough computers to have everyone sit their workstation. So all of those classes are very popular, and there is a huge queue and waiting list to get in. So our positive from a Rotman perspective is very positive. And you're right, we have a few clients that we work with, and they share their ideas and their experience. In particular, we have this international trading competition, and a lot of our clients, they run a course to prepare their students. And all of them are giving us the same feedback. They have waiting lists for the students to attend their classes, and they are all very eager to learn. One of the feedbacks from the competition itself is that the energy that you can feel in the room is amazing, and it is true that the students get much more engaged when they are asked to do something and to actually make a decision, and they will have an impact on the simulated market, rather than passively learning and listening to the instructor. So that is my comment on this. I don't know if Tom wants to add anything.
Just that we have a lot of our courses will choose some of the cases, a subset of the cases, to complement what they're doing in the classroom. So if it's a specialist course in fixed income, we have a sequence of fixed income cases that are relevant or related to what they're learning in the classroom. So they won't be in the classroom the whole course or the lab the whole course, but they'll send them in for a few cases to complement that. And so I think that, yeah, I think that's all I can think of at the moment. I had the thought there, but I'll resurrect it.
Okay, no problem at all. Tom from Trak, same question at you. Any feedback you've heard from any of your clients in terms of how the simulation tools help make the classes more engaging and have increased enrollment, participation, etc.?
Yeah, we get a lot of positive feedback, Ryan. Some of the things that Clayton was saying earlier about, especially the high school kids when they come into the trading room, and those kids that have been exposed to it really have a head start on understanding finance and the management of money and really what's involved with all of that. We recently ran a survey about 30,000 students. We polled about 30,000 students. We got a really great response. We got about 3,000 students, 2,600, up to about 3,000 students responding. And after they used our product or like products like this in their trading lab or as part of their class, about 97% of them, which is a very big number, said that they felt more confident about their investing capability and their investing knowledge. The only drawback to all of that is that although we are in a trading lab environment, and whether you're using Trak or whether you're using FTS, in those kinds of simulated environments, the emotional aspect is not there. So the sense of risk is alleviated from you. So it's very difficult to place that risk, into your, I would say, investing persona, even while you're in the trading lab. And I think that's the real key differentiators. But having been exposed to, products like Rotman Interactive Trader, Trak, and some of the other programs out there, it really helps you ameliorate the risk and sort of allows you to experience the bullet singing over your head, and really gets you settled and understanding, the risks that you're facing out there. So that's just some of the feedback that we're getting, and as Marco was saying, students are lining up to get into those classes where there is a trading lab. where the program is being adopted widely. Definitely seeing that, we're hearing that, and it just lends to the success of the student, because when the student gets out there into the marketplace, it's it's the sum of the knowledge that they've learned, because at the end of the day, they're going to have to manage their own money, whether it's going to be as a certified financial planner or managing somebody's money, somebody else's money, if you're working in a banking environment or a finance environment. All of this lends to the sum of your knowledge. So very, very positive feedback from clients and faculty.
Excellent. Well, I just want to remind everyone we're kind of starting to wind down here to the last maybe 10 minutes or so of our conversation. So if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to drop those in. Again, you should see a little green Ask a Question box in the lower right-hand corner of the video window. If you want to pop any questions in there, we'll be sure to answer them. Or likewise, if you're having any trouble with that, on that Google Plus page, the event page where you signed up or where you're watching this video, in that box that says Say Something, drop questions in there. We'll watch on that as well. So again, any questions, don't hesitate to fire them our direction.
Ryan,
I'll start with you, Tom, from StockTrak. Just in terms of free tools, we hear a lot of, hey, there's a free internet tool that's out there that does some basic simulations. What are the pros and the cons of those, and how do you advise clients that are coming to you on where they should look at that versus using a more robust paid solution?
Right. So Clayton talked about that a little bit just a bit earlier, and it was saying, TD Ameritrade or the Thinkorswim platform. That's free. You get exposed to that, and you're completely lost within 5 seconds. You have no idea of what's happening, in that environment. Free is good, but you have to keep in mind that for the most part, these tools aren't configurable. So you're either joining part of an existing tournament, and you're not able to configure the trading environment with the markets that you want to trade or the types of asset classes that you want to trade. But nonetheless, they still provide you with a good footing for learning. And what we're typically seeing is environments where the school can't afford to pay for the product themselves, or they don't want to put the student out. They're going to free products. But typically what will happen is, the professor will call and they'll start inquiring about, the product offerings that we have. And once they realize that their trading session is configurable in terms of, what currency am I trading in, what markets am I accessing, what's my trading start date, what's my, beginning cash balance, and once you're able to set all those configurable variables, that's where we leave the realm of the everyday to something really of more value. So that's typically what we're seeing. There are free tools out there. I often point to them when I'm speaking with faculty if they just want to sort of test drive something before they actually commit to it. So I think there's value in that.
Great. I'll jump to you, Clayton, because I know you've got experience with both free tools as well as some of the paid tools. Any advice you have in terms of pros, cons, things you've observed using them?
Yeah, I think the free tools typically lack three things. Configuration, like Thomas was talking about. You can't typically configure the free tools, and a lot of it has to do with focus as well. So a lot of the free tools, I'm pretty sure there's some free ones out there that are focused on specific things, but typically those ones will lack the resources to be a really good tool. But a lot of it has to do with the focus. If we use something like TD Ameritrade, it's just a demo account, and it serves its purpose because it gets students comfortable with an actual account that they'll have in the real world. But at the same time, it lacks the focus that something like RIT or StockTrak has, and a specific learning objective. And most of those free tools are built as a subset of an existing real account. So Thinkorswim is just their Thinkorswim platform that they use, and they've configured it a little bit to mold into this school kind of perspective, and you can use it for that, but it's not built for that. So it'll work, but it won't give you the same amount of value as you might get from something that's paid. And then lastly, which is probably overlooked a lot, but is very important, is support. If you're paying for something, you'll typically have a direct contact that you can call up if there's a problem. just high levels of support. If you're using a free tool, if they have the resources, like TV, they have a lot of resources, so they have decent support, but we can't call them up and say, oh, this person's account isn't working, can you take care of that for us? We kind of have to have the student do it, and it's just, it's a lot more to do to get something like that done, whereas if you're paying for it, you'll have somebody you can call up and they'll take care of things for you. And even something like RIT, if we need a case modified because we want it to fit a bit of a different objective for us, they'll do that for us. You know, you get that level of support. I guess it's the old saying, you get what you pay for.
Okay. Well, it's a good lead into you, Marco and Tom, since it sounds like you customize cases and do all kinds of fun support for clients. Give us your perspective of the free versus paid arguments.
So Ryan, I'll just give an example. It really builds upon what Tom was saying about configuring, and it also relates to the question of the excitement in the classroom. So in our platform, our Rotman Portfolio Manager, where they apply their strategies to real-time quotes, one of the features that is related to configuring is they can benchmark against the average in the class, or they can benchmark against the prof's benchmark, or they can benchmark against other groups in the class. So I run sort of assignments where they're competing, say a hedge fund strategy or a trading ball, and they're taking the assignments they learned in the simulation platform or the lessons, and they're applying them to real-time quotes, you know, derivatives on the VIX and things like that. And they get very excited because through the software, they can see how they're doing relative to other groups in the class. So when they do their presentation, which is like a pitch to a money management firm, they will be making reference to their performance relative to other performances and other strategies. So that ability to configure their experience or the assignments to particular objectives is really useful, I think. And that's the type of thing that you can get on these, on StockTrak and RPM and these other products. And I'll just mention one other thing that following up that I was trying to think of before about, Tom was talking about this experience in the lab in terms of learning to deal with the emotion. I think that's really good training. And we also find that, you know, a lot of interest from the students in the psychology, sort of behavioral finance and the psychological effects and anomalies. And so one of the things that I find that is really useful in the simulated setting is that they're not just price takers in the sense that they're interacting with the actual prices of the markets. They're creating the market. So we see all types of behavioral biases working themselves out as they get these bandwagon effects of trying to decide when a bubble is going to burst, etc. And students are very interested in that because they like to see how the behavioral aspects of the market aggregate of a bunch of different individuals making decisions can have an impact on the market and how they can interact with that. And so that's another feature that really excites them about being in the lab.
Great. Anything to add, Marco?
Yeah, just following up on the paid versus free. It is true that there are some free tools out there, especially when it comes to portfolio management and you know, tools like StockTrak and the RPM and so on. When it comes to like flight simulators and market simulators, it's a bit different. As far as I know, there is nothing free. And the main reason is Clayton had a point. It's like if you need a new case, you need someone that you know is working on that full time and can help you on that. That's our added value in that point. Like we have 2 full-time staff who are working on the cases and they are working on managing the software and making sure that the cases are consistent with the theory, so that professors essentially have an off-the-shelf product that they can take and present in class as soon as they need it.
Great. Well, I think we're encroaching up here on our hour goal. So I want to give each of you guys a quick chance to give us your closing thoughts. You know, just a short wrap up of any key points, any takeaways for the people that are attending today that you know you really want them to go home and consider as they're thinking about simulation programs. So Clayton, I'll start with you if you want to give us your closing thoughts.
Yeah, I think if you're not using simulation programs, you're kind of a step behind. I mean, if all you're learning is theory throughout a program, when you actually get into the job market where they're expecting you to apply the theory that you've learned, if you haven't done that in a controlled environment where you can really learn how to properly apply that, then you're going to be a step behind from somebody that has. So personally, I can't see how a program without using any sort of simulation tools could compare to a program that is, but I don't know, maybe it's out there, but I think all programs should try and incorporate as much as they can. Theory is great, and it's definitely necessary to know what's behind
Great.
the scenes, what's happening, but you need the simulation tools to be able to do that.
Oh, sorry about that. You cut out for just a second there. Thanks. So Tom from Trak, I'll let you kind of throw your closing thoughts and any parting advice you want to leave with our viewers.
Sure. You know, I can't envision a business program not exposing you to the stock market. So even if you're just as an undergraduate and you're maybe in a liberal arts school, I'm seeing more and more schools just like that exposing their students to the stock market. So, you know, at the end of the day, you have a lifetime of earning power, and whether or not you're going to go on into a banking career, at the end of the day, you should understand what's sitting in your pocket and what your paycheck really means. So even in a personal finance setting, there's absolutely great rewards in being able to be part of a business program where you're able to go into the trading room, or at least be exposed to some level of investing knowledge. So I think, you know, that's the takeaway. You know, I'd like people who are listening to us today. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be overreaching. It could just be as simple as using those free tools that are out there in the marketplace. Do something. Open up your students' eyes. Allow them to manage money, even if it's virtual money. And in the case where there's higher education and there's more stickiness to the content that the university or the college wants to impart, then by all means, use that.
Great. And last but not least, Tom and Marco from Rotman, any closing thoughts from your end?
Yeah, so I was thinking, as a university, our goal has to be to prepare our students for, you know, what they're gonna do once they graduate. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna, you know, make decisions and have an impact in the field that they're working on. And the only way that we can better prepare them is to have them practicing those making decisions when the future is uncertain. So, and you can only do that by using a simulation tool. Just to follow up on that, I had two examples. One is when we had our last trading competition last week, I was talking to one of the sponsors. It's a trading firm from Chicago. And the trader that was here, he was amazed by how close to what he's doing our cases were. And so being able to replicate something that is very close to what the real world does, I think it's valuable, and the students can learn a lot from that. And the other thing is, by using simulations, we had the opportunity to have a partnership with one of the largest companies in the world. And they actually decided to train all of their traders by using our simulation tool. So it's, you know, we're proud of that because it shows that actually the simulation learning, it's not only for the students in a university, but it's also for professionals who are working and they have to learn and they have to be better at their job.
Great.
Okay, I'll just add a couple quick things. At our competition last week, just to demonstrate that it's much broader, this issue of simulating to learn about making decisions about the future. We had a team of 6 people, each of whom was from a different department, including languages. So there's a lot of interest across different disciplines about this simulation. And as Clayton said, you know, this is starting to become more prevalent. I know that simulation-based learning is used for, you know, extensively in medicine, in aviation, etc. So I think that these are tools that are very useful to get people to think about what they can predict and what they can't predict. And, you know, I used to find in finance that you had sort of a dichotomy. And some people, and certainly some MBA students, will tell me that you can't predict anything. The future is completely uncertain, so there's nothing you can predict. And then on the other, sometimes in the classroom, we're using discussion cases where it's all ex post. And it's good to learn about what happened in the past and to build on that. But what we're trying to do with simulation, I think, is we're trying to say, okay, how much can we predict in different situations, and can we model that? And just teaching people about what a model is, that often people have the model in their head. So they're making decisions because they've had experience, and their experience has built this model in their head, and that guides their decision. So we're trying to get people to think about, okay, let's think through that process of decision making, and what can we write down, and how can we formalize this, and how can we use that to make better decisions, and how can we get feedback to improve our model, etc. So it's a process to get them to think through the logic of their decision making, and not to say there's nothing that we can predict, and not to say we can predict everything, but learn about what we can predict and how confident we are in it, and how by experience and constantly learning we can improve our decision making.
Excellent. Well, with that, we're at our hour mark. I want to thank everyone for attending today's session. Hopefully it was valuable information for you, and I especially want to take a moment to thank our panelists for sharing their thoughts and experiences and knowledge with everyone that is here watching. So to you guys, thank you very much for participating. We greatly appreciate it. Again, recorded version of this will be out on the universityfinancelab.com website under the Hangouts. Check it out, share it with your colleagues, check out our schedule for future Hangouts, and feel free to participate and follow along as we're trying to spread the word and create a really tight-knit community of organizations around the world that are using these finance labs. So again, thanks everyone for their time.
Thanks, Ryan.